The operator and the drifter have a lot of misconceptions about them. Let's change that.
Time's up, kiddo. I can save them. All of them. But you have to want it. Let's say we shake on it.
The simple explanation is the operator and the drifter are the same person, but who originally came from different timelines. When the man in the wall did the deal with the operator / the drifter, what ended up happening was the deal was made and two possibilities happened in the same timeline. The drifter didn't escape from the Zariman, while the operator did. Do note that Angels of the Zariman and Whispers in the Wall treat operator and drifter as the same person gameplay wise. Let's talk some scaling. You know how in a previous video I said Man in the Wall is 5th dimensional? Well, one of his fingers powers the railjack. Bagus scales above the railjack. Lotus scales to Bagus because he stole her energy, and the Warframes are about as powerful as Lotus in power because Operator and Drifter managed to equal a nerfed Lotus. It was a whole story arc in the Rising Tide quest. The Rising Tide quest came before the New War, where you saved Lotus. In the Rising Tide quest, you build the railjack, but then you get access to one of Man in the Wall's fingers. This finger is 5th dimensional because it comes from him who has the 5th dimensional energies. So this railjack just went from a normal railjack that's top of the line in Orokin Empire tech to being a 5th dimensional railjack that's practically the strongest railjack in existence. And people want to say that just because a sun can crap on it, somehow it's only star level, when the context is that sun can crap on 5th dimensional things. So this one was swept under the rug because I see no one talking about this. You remember how back in the New War, Bagus trapped the operator in their own personal timeline? Well, it was elaborated upon in Lloyd's computer. There were 2 scans in particular on Lloyd's computer that specifically says that Bagus himself put the operator in a time loop within his own timeline. The key word is the operator's acausal type 4 timeline had to be manipulated in order to stop them from interfering with Bagus. To my knowledge, Operator and Drifter have the most potent form of possession, which I believe can work even on living things. Let's talk the Warframes. Let's assume the weakest Warframe is Ivara. Let's assume the physically strongest in terms of punching power is Atlas. The difference between them is literally within 100 times. The Prime Warframes we don't know is how much stronger than that. But most people assume the Operator is still weakened by this point, when the truth is they have all the Prime Warframes as well as all the regular Warframes that we have documented. Let's talk about the Void Schools. There's a few different Void Schools, and the only differences between them are the philosophies and the things they teach, along with maybe a few different powers. I can't tell you if the powers are restricted to the schools directly, or if it's just the school on how they teach you on how to use the power itself. Regardless, however, there's no fundamental differences in terms of power scaling or potency between the different Void Schools that the operator can use. Let's talk about arcanes and mods. Arcanes and mods can be buffed, nerfed, and readjusted at any point in the future. This is why even though you see mods for necromechs, mods for railjacks, mods for warframes, mods for guns, mods for sentinels / pets, I don't use them. If a mod gives you an 80% damage increase and then is nerfed to a 40% damage increase, that doesn't mean the lore is saying it only increases the damage by 40%. That just means the in-game adjustment had to be done because that mod was too much for the sandbox that game came from. Just because a mod system exists within a game doesn't mean we have canon multipliers for how much that increases your power. It's just a side topic that I could bring up for any game with a canon mod system. Last point before I end the video. The Warframes have distinct differences between all 54 of them, but here's the things they have in common. Warframes were created for the purpose of taking on the sentients. It's worth noting the sentients were weak to void energy, so there is some contention on how much it's the hacks versus how much it's the scaling, but we know the Warframes are overall the best option out of everything in the Orokin Empire against the sentients. They literally warred and won against the sentients, a bit with some help with ceiling hacks. It's worth noting that high-end Warframes and other operators with Warframes have access to Archon shards, so it's the very high end of Warframes that are as powerful as Lotus and Bagus. Warframes do have limits, like for example when they fight Void Angels. Void Angels have dimensional interaction with dimension orbs, and you have to go inside the orb just to get rid of the Void Angels' invulnerability. And that's it, really. I'm gonna hit Warframes another day because there's simply so many Warframes that I have to make that another video because there's no way I could keep this under 10 minutes if I covered the Warframes also. Anyhow, Warframe's a really good game. I think the story is beautiful, but part of the issue with Warframe is it's interpretation based. So 90% of the arguments I'm giving you are objective, but on some level you can argue some subjectivity. But I'm trying to keep it as minimal as possible when I scale these characters. So, take it or leave it for what you will. Anyhow, that's all I really had. You know, leave a like if you think I deserve it. Share it around to your friends because that helps me the most out of anything you could possibly do if you want to help me out. You know, drop a sub if you think I deserve it. And etc, etc. I'm not going to give you the whole 9 yards rant. Have a good one. And I'll see y'all later. Peace.